ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸਾਡੀ ਆਡੀਅנס ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਅਸੀਂ ਪੂਰਾ ਇਨਫੋਰਮੇਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਦਈਏ what all has happened and you are the right person. So I'll request Justice Gurita to kindly come on the stage.
Sat Shri Akal. Pranam, Stani, Ulka ji, Prabhu Chavla ji, Ahuja ji, and Pradap Singh ji, and all the distinguished members of the audience, ladies and gentlemen. I consider it an honor and privilege to be invited to address this August gathering on the 39th anniversary of one of the horrendous events in India's history. William Kundera is supposed to have said that the struggle of man against power is the struggle of memory against forgetting. Events like today's event, which commemorates the deeply horrific events in this capital city of Delhi, are so essential for us to reflect, to introspect on where we are headed as a nation, as a community, as a society, and ask ourselves, how much have we learned from history? It is very important that we do this, not only for ourselves, but as both Shri Ahuja, Shri Pratap Singh ji have said, and Shri Kulka has also adverted to, for the future generations. Those in this audience who witnessed to the traumatic events of 1984 will recollect that within a month of this horrific event, something of the same scale of tragedy took place in the city of Bhopal on the intervening night of December 2nd and 3rd. And as a coincidence, I have been deeply associated with that incident as well, the Bhopal gas disaster. As a lawyer, I had to take up the cases of those victims of the Bhopal gas disaster. If you look at India's legal history, both the Sikh riots and the Bhopal gas disaster, happening within a month of each other, would go down as pointers to the inability of the Indian legal system to handle either mass crimes or mass torts. There have been denial of justice to both the Sikhs who were killed brutally in the 1984 riots and the victims of the Bhopal gas disaster. And both these events show us that our legal system requires a lot of reformation, a lot of change, and most importantly, a lot of orientation of the judges and lawyers to be able to respond meaningfully to these tragic events. When I talk of mass crimes, the scale of the riots in Delhi in 1984, November 1st to 4th, is quite unprecedented, except the scale of violence that one saw during the partition. And that is what made me advert to that event, that traumatic event, the trauma of which is still being felt through generations. It's very rare to find a family in Delhi which does not have grandparents or great-grandparents who suffered as a result of the partition and the violence that took place during the partition. My own close circle of friends have many such stories to recount, and how deeply it has affected their psyche. Likewise, the 1984 Sikh riots. This event did not affect just the psyche of those in Delhi, but far and wide in India. All the repercussions of this one event were felt in several states. We're talking of Haryana, of course, Punjab, Madhya Pradesh, Bihar. And I come from Chennai, and I can tell you, in Coimbatore, the Sikh community, which has been such a friend to the people, they had to suffer. The shops were burned, houses were looted. So the scale of violence, and we invariably, when we talk of violence, we tend to concentrate on the murders, on the killings. We don't talk of the trauma, the mental trauma that the families of those victims have had to undergo. And that trauma is continuing to be felt. I happened to serve 9 months in the Punjab and Haryana High Court, and I got to meet some members of the community there as well, and who again recounted stories of how it has affected several generations of children and perhaps even the grandchildren. This collective struggle of memory against forgetting is also essential for the legal community and for the judiciary as an institution. What we must guard against is amnesia. Today when we go to the law colleges, when we talk to law students, and we ask them how much do they know of the 1984 riots, very often we will have a look of bewilderment. When we ask them about the Bhopal gas disaster, very often their eyes widen and they want to know what this is all about. Which is why this kind of an event is so important. I must compliment the Sikh Forum for keeping this memory alive, for keeping the struggle alive, and as Justice Fulka said, that struggle must never be given up. It must also not be given up because today we are in a world torn by conflict increasingly. We are talking in the backdrop of what is happening in Israel and Palestine. We are talking in the backdrop of what is happening in Ukraine and Russia. And we are talking in the backdrop of several such conflict areas all over the world, where people are getting riven as a result of race, as a result of communal violence, caste violence, which is why one keeps wondering whether we have really learned from the past. Have we learned from the history of all these collective struggles, and are we prepared to change? When we look at the legal system, I mentioned to you the two great events which severely tested the legal system. We find that our own criminal procedural laws, our own laws of evidence, our own substantive laws have still not responded to these events. And I'm particularly referring to the recent spate of amendments, the attempt at bringing out 3 new statutes, which have been named, of course, differently, but they still do not address the possibility of mass crimes, crimes against humanity, of crimes of genocide, of communal violence on large scale. They still do not address the pain of the victim, the voice of the victim. In our criminal justice system, the voice of the victim has to be heard only through the prosecution. And this is where the biggest challenge is. Many victims want to tell their stories. They don't have a platform, they don't have a forum to tell their stories. They have to speak through the prosecution. And that is where much is lost, as we would say, as a euphemism, lost in translation. What is presented as a factual problem, when it's translated into a legal problem, much of the details get lost. Because as Justice Alvin Sachs would say, there are 4 kinds of truth. One is what he calls the logical truth, the deductive logic. The second he calls experiential truth, through a person's life's experience, like Mahatma Gandhi when he talks of experiments with truth, experiential truth. The third is the dialogic truth. The victim and the perpetrator come face to face. This is what happened in South Africa when they set up what is called the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. When crimes happen on a mass scale, happen systematically over a period of time, any legal system in most parts of the world are unable to cope with the demands of that justice. And in South Africa they found, by setting up the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, they could give space to this dialogic truth, where the victim is heard to say all that the victim went through, and the perpetrator is made to sit and listen to that. And the perpetrator is allowed to say what he or she wants to say in response to that. and you get a complete 360-degree view of that single event, where others also speak about that event. The fourth kind of truth that Justice Sachs talked about is what is called microscopic truth. And he says much of the miscarriage of justice in courts happens because of microscopic truth. You would very often find a victim being asked, please say yes or no. Did this happen? Did this not happen? And the victim says, but you know, I need to tell you something else about it. The lawyer will say, no, that is not relevant to this case. The judge will also say, no, please answer the question, yes or no. This kind of close-ended questioning, where the victim is not, the witness is not allowed to stray beyond what is strictly required for the case, means that much of the other information which will make this truth complete is lost to the court. So much of the full narrative doesn't emerge, which is why you will also find, and Chavlaji will recall, the people's tribunals hearings that we have. I think Chavlaji, I don't know whether you've sat in some of those hearings, Kulkaji has sat, I'm sure. You'll find victims come and speak to a panel, and they'll be able to pour out all that they undergo, and they feel that they've been heard, they've been listened. Both Justice Sistani and I have felt this so often in courts. Justice Sistani, I don't know how many of you are aware, is an ace mediator. Very underplayed, very understated, but an ace mediator. He has brought together many families riven asunder by litigation by spending that extra time in his chamber and putting sense into people's heads. He would rather do that than spend hours in court hearing arguments which are going to lead to no resolution of the case. So he has, as a judge, brought together families, brought closure. This word closure, many of you would have heard. And this is what is lacking in the 1984 riots. Many victims of the 1984 riots want closure, which is why they keep struggling, why they keep fighting, because everyone needs closure. So that effort at bringing things to the legal system, which is what we as judges realize when we go in for mediation, when we bring an end to disputes that have been running for a long time, which is what is also needed when you deal with situations of such mass crimes or mass torts. Truth and Reconciliation Commission is one model. I'm not saying that model will always work in all situations, but in situations of communal rights, where the social fabric has torn, the mending of the social fabric can happen only in a forum of truth and reconciliation. You have heard of peace mohallas, mohalla committees, community level, community-based efforts at bringing about peace. Those are the things that might work in the longer run. Our own legal system must give space for that. It must not push people into seeking justice through a legal system which is so formally ordered, which does not allow other truths other than the microscopic truths to be examined. So this is one thought that I'm left with, even at the end of this judgment, which was referred to by Mr. Kulka. Much more needs to be done to set our system right, and I hope those in charge of bringing about those changes are listening to these voices as well. We are in a position in the legal system where much needs to be done for the victim. We have not acknowledged the pain of the victim. We still don't have a formalization of what in England and other places is called the criminal injuries compensation schemes. We have not given a statutory status to those schemes. So many victims who've lost, like I told you, who've lost properties in the Sikh riots, who've lost belongings, who've had to be displaced, who've lost lands, who had to flee their houses and be converted into people seeking help. You know, this loss of dignity. A community which is so proud, which believes earning by one's own labor, to go and become a supplicant, to become a person seeking benefit, is really a huge assault on one's dignity. And that can never be adequately compensated. But we need to acknowledge that acknowledgement of injuries, not just physical and mental, but injury to pride, injury to dignity, that the legal system has still not learned to acknowledge. And I hope that those who are seeking to bring about changes in our legal system think about setting up of this criminal injuries compensation schemes and give it a statutory status so that the relief granted is immediate, not delayed, because here is a classic case of justice delayed resulting in justice denied, and the Sikhs have had to suffer for too long as a result of the indifference of the system to their suffering. The last thought is about violence begetting more violence. Let's look at the events just before the 1984 Sikh riots and the events following it. A whole series of violent incidents, endless cycle of violence, more suffering, more pain, more trauma, more scarring. This is what as a world we are not learning from. Mahatma Gandhi saw this very early on. When India, here in Delhi, we were hoisting the flag of Indian independence, the tricolour. Gandhiji was in Calcutta, trying to bring about peace between two communities. He knew that the social fabric had been deeply torn because of the violence accompanying the partition. And he knew that at the community level, at the ground level, if there is no peace, there will be no peace in the nation. We all need to support all those initiatives within our communities, taken by people who are looking for peace, who are looking for healing through love. That effort needs to be kept on. Although there may be some amongst us who believe in retribution, who believe in violence, from history we learn that violence can only beget more violence. And it's an endless cycle which leaves no winners but only losers. For our future generations we owe this, that we plant in them the seeds of love, the seeds of forgiveness, the feeling of empathy, and to form a larger, part of a larger community which believes in these values and values of eternal peace and love, because that is the only way forward amidst all this turmoil and tribulation and chaos amidst which we are living. There are huge challenges for our future generation. These challenges are not going to get any less. They need to be strengthened. They need to be kept on the right track in facing these challenges. And they need to look up to people who have faced these challenges through resoluteness, through determination, just like the Sikh Forum, and believe in the power of love, the power of healing. Thank you for such patient listening. It's always a pleasure to talk to the community of Sikhs. They've been my friends through life, and they've always stood with the rest of us, always, without fail. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Not taking up more time, I request Mr. come over the stage and since he has to go, so we can take up now.
Respected Justice Justice Carnage, Sir Punjabi, Sir Punjabi, Sir President General Sahib. First, I must compliment the Sikh Forum for celebrating this, celebrating the victory of justice over injustice. We are celebrating because somebody was so big and Justice Muralidhar was able to put him behind the bars. That represents what? Represents the unity, represents that justice is still alive in this country. Man, physically, मेरे से त्योहारी है, पर mentally I am a Sikh. Behavior भी मेरे से खामा करेगा कि जो दिल्ली जाता है बोलते ही है, frankly रहा है, आप एक आवाज़ से लड़ता रहना है. Sikh unity known. When they know something has to be fought, they fight for it. Before I talk about the subject, I told that I should talk about the media because I heard Secretary Sahib saying something about the presidents are referring to the media that they were doing justice done. Justice Muralidhar had delivered the justice. He spoke about certain problems. इनका ये फेमस है जस्टिस वाले जो कहते हैं justice delayed is justice denied. That is famous. No judges have been able to amend this further. I am going to say something different. मेरा कहना ये है कि when you study what happened to the Sikh community, because I have witnessed what happened. Because one Sikh was burnt in front of me by putting the tire around his neck. I saved one of them, one person. My colleague is here, he was there from Punjabi. I was. But you talk about justice. I want to ask a respected member of the judiciary. When you say justice denied is justice delayed, denied is justice denied. I would say justice delayed is justice destroyed. It's not delayed. It is destroyed, which was happening in the case of your community, because attempts are made to destroy justice at every place. But Justice Muralidhar का रिवाइव है, कानून की हत्या करना, लोगों की हत्या आपने बेशर्मी से की, परंतु कानून की हत्या करने वालों को भी लोगों ने बख्शा नहीं. क्यों नहीं बख्शा? Other thing is that victims are celebrated, victims are given some kind of a compensation. Victims are given compensated, they are compensated. What happened to perpetrators? When the victims are compensated, perpetrators are facilitated. They become the leaders, become ministers, they become MPs. More the crime you commit, more popular you become. That is the history of this. And Justice Murali has raised a very important point that we cover all kinds of crime. But mass crime, this is one thing which is now bothering me as a media person. When you are dealing with mass crime like Sikh genocide, like what happened in Gujarat or what happened in other parts of the country. From independence till now, almost 2 million people have died in various riots. How many people have given justice? Why? The mass crime is something in which even the judges can't find out how to convict them because there are so many people involved in it. As a community, I am asking this question because 3,500 people were massacred in Delhi. And you couldn't get 350 witnesses who could come forward. Why? Are we afraid of facing our own fate? When you say justice is denied, because people of this country are getting used to mass crimes. ये तो होता ही है, चलता ही है, भोपाल में मर गए, तो भाग गया इंडिया छोड़ करके उसके बाद जहाज दे दिया उन्होंने यहाँ पर उसको भाग गया। यहाँ पर भी कितने 5-7 लोग बिना जेल में पड़े हुए हैं, 3,500 लोग मर गए, जिनके बच्चे अब 40 साल के हो गए, उनके बच्चे होंगे, वो सारी उम्र क्या याद रखेंगे कि हमारे दादा को या हमारी माता दादी को या किसी को मारा था, उसका सजा नहीं मिली। शर्म की बात है हमारे सबके लिए। Why? Because we could not collect witnesses, because we could not collect people to defend us, defend you. उनका साथ लड़ाई लड़ते रहे, उसको पॉलिटिक्स में भी चले गए, फिर वापस आ गए, हम consistently one factor was fighting for us. How many of them get fought? I thought on the commission, I went to this commission, I saw not many Sikh leaders, not maybe I'm saying it here, not many Sikh leaders came forward to fight for their own community the way we should have fought. I don't know what would happen, I'm just raising a very controversial subject here because I'm a journalist. मेरे को सीधी बात करनी है आपको, मैं सीधी बात करने जा रहा हूँ। I was on the flight on 31st of October. We were coming from Thana. Dr. Singh चले गया मेरे से. He was there in the flight. There were six gentlemen in the flight. Dr. Singh, KC Singh, and Singh in the secretary. We were in Thana, Yemen, on a visit. We were 5-day visit. 9:30 बजे मेरे को ब्रेकफास्ट करना था ज्ञानी जी के साथ, तो होटल में जाकर के मेरे को कहा फोन आया कि नहीं, फोन नहीं आया, मैसेज आया कि नहीं आया, हम चलना हुआ, दूसरा वो भी बंद हो, चलो हमको दोपहर के बाद जाना था होटल का। तो फ्लाइट में बैठे, फ्लाइट में हमारे को बताया गया कि रमेश भंडारी बनता फ्लाइट में हमारे को बताया कि मिस्टर गांधी को इस सेक्स ने गोली मार दी है, और शायद ज्यादा नहीं बताया। तो ज्ञानी जी अपने कैबिन ऑफिसर था, प्लस प्लेन उसको छोटे प्लेन से थोड़ा इतना बड़ा ज्ञानी था जो आज का, पर इट वाज बिग। सब मिलने का ज्ञानी जी को मैं भी गया, बिंद्रा साहब थे, लोटे सिंह ने कहा तू भी मिला जाएगा, मैं कहा अच्छा जो नहीं चला जाए। ज्ञानी जी ना मेरी थोड़ी अच्छी होंगी रहती, तो शक मार देते। ज्ञानी जी मैं कह ये तो हो गया, तो नवा लीडर कौन होएगा? किसी कांग्रेस पार्टी दे रहे हो, किसी को होम मिनिस्टर रहे हो, ये करो। उन्होंने कोई पाकिस्तान की बड़ी दुखी लग रहे थे, पाकिस्तान के सच्चे खुद ऐसा नंबर क्या देखते खड़े हुए कुर्सी पे बैठ गए। मैंने कहने लगे रिचर्ड साहब देखो कोई चॉइस नहीं, मैं राजीव गांधी को बनावांगा प्राइम मिनिस्टर, चाहे कांग्रेस पार्टी ना बना। क्यों? डेमोक्रेसी तो नहीं है, लोग कहेंगे तो हम डेमोक्रेसी फॉलो नहीं कर रहे, मैं नहीं कर रहा, तो उसकी बड़ा मैं तो पत्रकार है, मैं सवाल पूछ रहा हूँ, देखो कहते पार्टी की होती है। मैं दरखान मैनू राजीव गांधी और इंदिरा गांधी ने प्रेसिडेंट बना छड़िया, तो मैं तो उन्होंने खुशदार रहना, मेरा फर्ज है कि मैं उस परिवार का कर्जा उतारा। तक पता ही नहीं था सिखना की होगा 2 दिन बाद। क्वेश्चन इज बाय द वे हिस्ट्री है पॉलिटिकल एनालिसिस गॉसिप, अगर हम प्रधानमंत्री राजीव गांधी ना बना दे, किसी और बना देते हैं पॉलिटिकल इलेक्टेड, वैसे का होता या नहीं होता मेरे को पता नहीं। These political events which are well known, which happen naturally in a way, which cause so much community thing. मैं लोगों को बचान रहा हूँ क्या कि सारे ग्रेटर क्राइम कैंसर ना हम खुद से सारे रिश्तेदार मैं हर भी देख करता हूँ लाल है कि वो घरवा उनको काट के ले आया। So nobody was coming forward. Question is when the mass crime come like this, will the society give up its responsibility of defending their own community? Now I come to media. We are blamed for not covering and giving a proper image. Yes, you are right, absolutely. The media at that particular point in time was biased. The question was, here was the Prime Minister of the country who was killed by a person who was happened to be Sikh. And the whole thing, election was coming 6 months, 3 months later, but anyway they were due. So it became some kind of very passionate thing. कि जेडे कांग्रेस के खिलाफ भी सन वो भी कांग्रेस नाम जुड़ गए because they thought this is something community has done because before that Khalistan movement is happening, like now only every Khalistan movement is happening abroad, it is the Sikh who become the victim. But you must differentiate between Khalistani and a Sikh, which you are not able to tell the people. I am a Sikh, I believe in Sikh, please, I am not true, but I may not be saying. But I believe in Sikh facets. Question is when 3,500 people killed and 356 did not come forward to give the witnesses. And they were fighting more elections against each other. At that time, should I trust Gyani Dayal Singh or should I trust Darbara Singh? Should I trust Bhutta Singh or should somebody else? Because they have religions of their own. All the persons are speaking against Sikh and for Sikhs. What was the media? Media was not witness to certain things which was happening in the government, within the government. एक तो इमोशनल हो गया कि ये हमारी प्राइम मिनिस्टर मार दी गई, सिख ने मार दी, उसका कुछ स्टेटमेंट आनी शुरू हो गई, तो उसकी वजह से कम्युनिटी के साथ जो जस्टिस होनी चाहिए थी वो नहीं हुई। क्योंकि उसको देखने के लिए बहुत जरूरी था कि आप क्या करना चाह रहे हैं। डिवाइसिव सोसाइटी always helps the criminal. इन्होंने एक witness को पकड़ी, reading it. One witness, he said, right? He said, one witness is enough to prove the crime. If he read his judgment, if he says one witness is enough to prove the crime, if there were 35 more witnesses, there would have been 35 more leaders in the jail today. We have to look within ourselves. मीडिया का रोल क्या है कि we go to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. अब बूटा सिंह जी जब गुरुद्वारा बनवाने की इच्छा पहुंच के वहाँ पर सारी टीम प्ले करते, उनको नहीं दूसरे दिया। बूटा सिंह थे, they made difference to him. He said, I am also a Sikh. I said, but have you condemned? And Gyani ji, who made him the prime minister, was not allowed to go to Gurudwara there. And I told him after that. I said, तुमने बनाया था प्रधानमंत्री, तुम्हारे साथ क्या हो रहा? इसी का तुम ठीक है, मैं ठीक क्या ना? तो सुनने वाले ठीक है जो किला, you are the president of India. Rightly or whatever happened. When it comes to media, we are blaming, yes, we were a little biased at that time. I came back, India Today 31st October, fortnight ली थी, उस वक्त छपती थी, एमके रामचंद्र बन गया था, उसकी हमने कवर में छाप के मैगजीन बाहर आ गई थी, उसको रोका, इंदिरा गांधी की फोटो लगा के स्पेशल एडिशन हमने निकाला उस वक्त. But I would say, yes, we did not cover what was happening to the Sikhs that particular week. But after that, issue after issue, we brought out the kind of crimes were committed on the day. But the problem arises, who is briefing on your behalf? Who is your spokesperson? Whom do I meet and get the facts? Who are the victims who are willing to come out and speak and give me the narrative? गल्ला मैंने दसे ना कोई की होया कहते ना जा करके. Media no blame her, that's okay. We are victims of it. The politician and victims, people and press, they don't get together. And their friends also, but their enemies also. प्रेस की परेशानी ये है कि हमारे हर चीज के दो वर्जन होते हैं. सिक्का है प्रेस की, उसका एक साइड की है, दूसरी साइड की है. जब तक मेरे को दूसरी तरह की स्टोरी नहीं मिलेगी, मैं किसको ट्रस्ट करके लिखूं? कुछ पत्रकार ज्ञानी जी के साथ, कुछ दरबारा सिंह के साथ, कुछ बूटा सिंह के साथ. जो बूटा सिंह ने कहा अवसर अखबार में छप गया, किसी ज्ञानी जी ने क्या किया और अखबार में छप गया. Because the truth. When people were being killed, it was the truth which was being massacred along with. सच की भी हत्या साथ में हुई थी उस वक्त. सच को भी दबा दिया गया था कि कैसे लोगों को घर से निकाल के मारा, कैसे आग लगा के फैक्ट्री की करो की जबरा अपने लोगों में देखा जाए. तो मीडिया की प्रॉब्लम क्या हमारे सामने बहुत सारी ऐसी आती है कि कम्युनिटी when the community gets divided. I'm very frank. आजकल गुरुद्वारा के इलेक्शन में झगड़ा, वहां भी झगड़ा, हर जगह हमारे मंदिरों में झगड़ा. तो इस झगड़े की वजह से मस्जिद हो, गुरुद्वारा हो, मंदिर हो, आज हिंदू मुसलमान हो सकता है, खालिस्तान वर्सेस नामघर सच सकता है. Why? Because the community divided. अब कनाडा में कोई हो गया, मर गया या मार दिया गया, क्या जब हुआ, उसे क्या कारण था, क्रिमिनल था, नहीं था, I don't want to get into that. I was in Canada when he was killed. I know more facts. जो वहां ने इकट्ठे किए, तो वो कहाँ दूर रहता था, जाकर के other side of Canada. But should there be a, why should that person be associated with the Sikhs in the rest of the world? वो था या क्रिमिनल था या पुलिस था या कुछ भी था. जब लंदन में जाकर के जिस तरह के हुआ, या झंडा उतार के फेंक दिया गया, नीचे उतार के, क्या इसका कंडेमनेशन कौन करेगा? All the Muslims are being blamed from the acts of few Muslims. मेरी दोस्ती होती है भाई, हर सरसरे हर कमिटी में होते हैं, ये विजयनदार में भी है, उनकी वजह से बाकी लोग प्रोग्राम में जाते हैं किताबें. So I am saying, you community, you are warriors. You have saved this country. You have saved the dharma of this country. You are the protector of this country. Khalsa is Khalsa. You have protected us, and that Khalsa is in trouble. We can't help it. तो मेरे को लगता है कि जब तक आप इकट्ठे नहीं होंगे, अभी लड़ाई आपने थोड़ी जीती है, आपको तो वार जीतना है. You have to win the war against the atrocity which happened. And when you start winning the war and when you are united, तो कहने लगे ਇਹ ਖੱਤ ਖੜਾ 5 ਮਿੰਟ ਖੱਤ ਖੜੇ ਕਰਦਾ ਉਹਦਾ ਸਰੈਂਡਰ ਕਰਦਾ 5 ਮਿੰਟ ਅਗਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਐਵੇਂ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੋ ਮਾਰਾ you don't have to do this, you have to do this 5 ਮਿੰਟ ਦਾ ਮੁੱਕਾ ਦਿਖਾਓਗੇ ਤਾਂ ਲੱਗੇਗਾ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਖਾਤਾ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਹੈਗਾ but you have to differentiate between what is happening, why you are playing for certain things. I am going to frank with you. You have to come out openly against what you think is wrong. इकट्ठे हो जाओ सारे जाके कोर्ट में लड़ो प्रेस ब्रीफिंग करो जरा गलत दसदा कि ये गलत बोल रहा है सच बोल रहे हैं तो कितनी बारी छुपावांगे बड़ी गल आई कैन नॉट हाइड ए गुड स्टोरी इसी बार बार जो सच बोलोगे मेरा मतलब है कि मैं आपको बदनाम नहीं कराऊंगा ना कोई पढ़ेगा नहीं कि प्रभु चलता झूठ लिखता है तो झूठ दिखाता है अंदर जाके गल करना our responsibility is what we hear ourselves, what we see ourselves, that is what we must report. But our problem is that when the society is divided, when the people are divided, it's not the, we are not the court, where there are two sides of each one of them sitting. One of them is telling the truth, the other is telling the lie. And just go there, find out which advocate is telling the lie, which advocate is telling the lie. We have to report both the sides. The question arises कि how you go about it. Now something like mass crimes are happening in the all over the world, much more often than the smaller crimes. People are killed in hundreds, 200, 50, 40. Many people are involved in that. How to identify the criminals? And to identify the criminals and how to get the witness to say, okay, ये आदमी वहाँ पर था, जहाँ 50 आदमी हथियार लेके जाते हैं, 50 लोगों को मरता कराने की जो उनकी चीजें वहाँ पर। So justice will become more and more difficult as you move forward because these kinds of provoked violence, motivated violence against certain communities all over the world is going to lead some kind of eventually a civil war. I am worried about that. लोगों ने अपने हथियार उठा लिए तो क्या होगा? तो media roles come into the picture when we play up these things. दोनों ने क्या कहा? डिवीजन ऑफ सोसाइटी हमने प्ले करना है, उसको देखने के लिए राइट्स से लोग बढ़ते चले जा रहे हैं. यूपी में कितना हुआ, कहाँ हो रहा है, क्या नहीं हो रहा. Everybody on TV you hear एक दूसरे के खिलाफ भड़काने की कितनी कोशिश कर रहे हैं. एंकर इधर ऐसे लेके आते हैं जैसे मैं अब कहता हूँ लोगों को मेरे को शर्म आती है जर्नलिस्ट कैटेगरी की बात जिसे मैं टीवी चैनल पे जाता है कम लोग बुलाते हैं मेरे को क्योंकि मैं यहाँ जो बोला वैसा मैं बोल देता हूँ उसके बाद बुलाते नहीं मैंने बंद कर दिया जाना. तो ये प्रोवोकेशन जो हो रही है बिकॉज दे थिंक दिस इज व्हाट यू वांट टू हियर एंड लिसन. तो आप हम सब लोगों को जैसे ने कहा कि चैलेंज बिफोर अस how to keep the bad elements away and expose them from the community, whether any community. I tell Muslim friends also, I tell Hindu leaders also, कि इनको बाहर करो, disown them. जब तक इनको आइसोलेट नहीं करोगे आप, तो लोग कहेंगे कि आप भी इसमें पार्टिसिपेंट हैं. You are supporting them. तो ये जो गुरुद्वारा पॉलिटिक्स है, मंदिर पॉलिटिक्स है, वास पॉलिटिक्स है, ये आपके कॉज को खराब कर रही है, हम सब के कॉज को खराब. या तो फैसला कर दो इलेक्शन नहीं होगा हमारे. इलेक्शन के चक्कर में कुछ लोग सपोर्टर किसी और को कर देते, किसी और को बना देते हैं. मंदिरों में भी होता है, आप यहाँ भी होता है. रोज मैं पढ़ता हूँ गुरुद्वारे के ग्रुप में, व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप है, मंदिरों में भी है झगड़े होते हैं. डोंट ब्लेम द मीडिया प्लीज. Media is always with you, shall remain with you. Some of the media are biased, we can't help it. हर पांचों मीडिया बराबर नहीं. इंडियन मीडिया अभी भी है, हमको किसी का डर नहीं. We favor none, we fear none. As long as public with us. कि पब्लिक जब हमारे ऊपर काउंटर करती है, मेरा अगर शो कोई देखेगा नहीं तो मैं तो क्या जर्नलिस्ट कोई पढ़ेगा तो मैं क्या जर्नलिस्ट. तो आपको अपनी कम्युनिटी के अंदर इंट्रोवर्ट होकर के एक बार अपने आप में सोचना चाहिए कि हमसे भी कोई गलती हुई है कि नहीं. ऐसे कर जिन्होंने किया, जो बचे हुए हैं जेल में जरूर जाएंगे. आई एम कॉन्फिडेंट. जस्टिस नॉट इन बीइंग डिस्ट्रॉयड बट इन रिलेशन नॉट बी डिस्ट्रॉयड. उनका जैसे लोग हैं, मुल्कर जैसे लोग हैं, जैसे उन्होंने कहा कि 39 साल के बाद मुल्कर कोई जाएगा तो सजा मिलेगी. ऐसे कई जाने वाले लाइन में लगे हुए हैं जो सजा देंगे. इंडियन मीडिया स्टिल अलाइव. टीवी के ऊपर मत जाइए, टीवी इज नॉट इंडियन मीडिया, इट्स अ प्रिंट मीडिया। टीवी इज अ प्रोपेगेंडा, टीवी इज अ लाउड स्पीकर। इसको कॉन्फ्रेंस शुरू करते हैं, बहुत शांति से पढ़िए सब, कुछ ना कुछ अच्छी चीज आपको मिल रही है। आई कैन अश्योर यू, मीडिया विल रिमेन विद यू विद द कॉज, दे आर द रियल खालसा ऑफ इंडिया। I गुरु जी खालसा, मैं फतेह सत।
The media is still with us, so the print media is concerned, but the electronic media is certainly propaganda media. And if you really ask me, I do not look at the Indian news as today for the last more than 8 months. I only see some headlines, go to the BBC, go to Al Jazeera, or go to the YNLD also sometimes. I do not subscribe to any of the Indian channels. So I think if you want to have peace of mind, please leave that go. So now the time, okay. I think Mr. Dr. Chavla wants to go. So thank you very much. So we request Justice Sani to come and come over.
My good friend Justice Dr. Justice Molidar, Padam Shri Pulkaji, President Mr. Ahuja, the backbone of Sikh Forum, DIG Sahab, eminent Sikh personalities. Since we are already late, I am not naming each one of them, but all of them sitting here. See, today's evening has been divided into two very interesting topics. One concerns the press and the other justice for the 1984 riot victims. You know, all of you have done PhD in WhatsApp these days. You know, we are all so you keep seeing justice or just ice. You know, if you just break it up. As far as justice for the 84 riot victims is concerned, you have already heard what the speakers had to say. But you know, the injustice started on 31st of October 1984 itself. Most of us sitting here have been victims or have passed through those 5 days in anguish. Some of us faced it personally, some of us were slightly far away, but it has certainly created an impact. I don't know how many of you know that even Pulka Sahab, his wife had to jump and from I think the first floor or something, and then there are so many horrendous stories. Then you must have all read the committees the commissions which were followed thereafter. Friends, injustice started when the looting started. That was the first injustice. Then injustice was when people were killed brutally, murdered, women dishonored, children became orphans, people lost their livelihood, they lost their breadwinners. That was all injustice to each one of them. But I ask this question today to myself and all of you. It was justice by whom? Who did this injustice? Thousands of pages have been filled. You know, in our world, and you people all will also be knowing, whenever you come across a slightly ticklish issue in our offices and wherever in our places of work, we make a committee. That's the easiest way to ward off a problem. Either if there is difference of opinion or whatever, एक कमेटी बना लो बनाने वाले कमेटी ऐसे बनाते हैं नोइंग कि कमेटी कभी चलेगी नहीं, और अगर चलेगी तो रिपोर्ट नहीं आएगी, और अगर रिपोर्ट आएगी तो उसके 10 चैलेंज होंगे. So if you look at the history from 1984 onwards, whether it was the Nath Mishra Commission, everybody knows that somebody had a soft corner and he headed the committee, the commission. That was injustice. Mr. Prabhu Chawla said that the community should have come together, people should have gone and filed reports. Sir, was the atmosphere such? When you know that the protectors became the killers, would anybody dare to go to the police station? Please see and read the report. I don't want to read out from the report, but ultimately they said from the police there were some only 537 people, and then out of that not a single person sacked by a departmental committee. There are even cases who were let off by a censure. It doesn't even come, censure doesn't even come on your ACR.
Shame.
So we were all blind. The government was blind. The report says people were agitated. People were upset that their leader had been killed by a member of a particular community. It's admitted, nobody is denying it. But then what happened? Hatred means that you will go, you will loot A house, you will loot B house. Looting, houses were burnt systematically with the help of election lists. We have all passed through the era of a ration card. Times have changed. Do you recollect that kerosene was on ration? Could you get even a bottle of kerosene without a ration card? If your car breaks down, can you go to a petrol pump and say, "Mujhe 4 canister petrol ke de do"? Will you get it? But the reports say that people were upset. So the killing was a reaction. Unless the kerosene depots were opened, kerosene freely distributed, jerrycans of petrol freely distributed, there would have been no fires, there would have been no persons burning with tires around their necks. So I want to know, I want to ask all the innocent people, did it happen on its own? Was the government in power at that time not responsible? Is it not the duty of the then government or any government to protect its citizens? Whose duty and responsibility is there to protect the citizens? The government? The law and order by the police? But they were hand in glove. They were soft orders. जो होता है होने दो. बड़ा पेड़ गिरता है तो उसका इफेक्ट होता है. ये इफेक्ट होता है. I was at the literary festival in Kasauli just about a week, 10 days back. One of the retired army generals was there, and somehow this 84 issue also came up, and he was asked, कि आप लोग 84 के टाइम कहाँ थे? He said the day orders were were given to us, there was not a single person on the road. He said, as far as the army is concerned, we acted swiftly, but the time when we were given orders. He says that even a second lieutenant stopped the lieutenant governor for traveling on his car and said, "Sir, there is curfew, please go back." He said, "I'm the lieutenant governor." He said, "Sir, go back." And according to the general, the lieutenant governor had to go back. So, even that was injustice. Now we come to the judicial system. There is, before any matter reaches the court, there is investigation. Who does the investigation? Police does the investigation. Who collects the witnesses? State collects the witnesses. Who draws out the first charge sheet? Police makes the charge sheet. What is the general atmosphere? Hostile. What is the way? Mob. Who will come forward? Nobody. As it is even today, nobody is happy to enter into any police station. Do you feel secure? I don't think anybody feels secure. Would anybody have gone? See, it is warriors like Mr. Pulka, Madam Bora, and Mr. Hardev Singh, senior advocate, Sodhi Saab, who was then a lawyer in the Supreme Court, Justice R.S. Sodhi, ably assisted by Justice Ravinder Bhatt, who is since retired judge of the Supreme Court, Mr. S.C. Malik. They worked tirelessly against a dead wall. When you know the court is hostile, you know when the people sitting there are biased, what do you expect? Miracles. Yes, you saw one miracle in Justice S. Muralidhar. That was a miracle. It is a miracle that after my bench, it was his bench. It could have been any other bench. So, where do you test the legal system? You heard of the Jessica Lal murder case. There was no conviction. There was acquittal by the trial court. The High Court was the court which made the first order of conviction. Because ultimately you require evidence. But who was collecting the evidence? The same very people. I was staying in Jaipur at that time. Bhogal is just next to Jaipur. We used to see smoke. Our house was under construction and there was a lot of wood which we had just purchased a week back. It was lying in the front lawn. Every day we used to receive one phone call, anonymous phone call. Threatening. जला देंगे, लकड़ी को जला देंगे, ये कर देंगे, वो कर देंगे. We could hear shouts because Bhogal is not far away. We are sorry, we are sad that we have lost somebody, but we don't want to lose any life. Any violence will be curtailed with an iron hand. Police could have been on the streets, army could have been on the streets. You would have had tanks on the streets if required. You would not have lost an innocent life. But you did not want that. At that time the slogan was, "Thoda inko maza chakao." So, there has been complete injustice from 31st October 1984 onwards. And in that injustice has gone on and on. But there is always some silver lining. You heard about Justice Muralidhar's judgment. It's worth reading. It's actually worth reading. It's not worth reading only because it affects the 84 riot victims, but it says much more. What does our religion teach us? We don't. our religion doesn't talk about just ourselves. We talk about whatever Guru Nanak Dev Ji said. So it's not just us. We are just part of the system. Even now, if you ask a common man, he will say he feels secure and safe in the company of a Sikh. Why is that? So, we have to solve our own problems. We have to live up to the ideals of Guru Nanak Dev Ji and our religion. There has been suffering. There has been some rehabilitation, I know. Lots could have happened. But let me tell you, most of it was all cosmetic. I have done cases for the banks also. Lot of transporters lost their trucks. They were all said your EMIs will be redone, etc. But if you think that lot of loans were written off, etc., I don't think that's correct. So there was, till a particular government was in power, it was purely cosmetic. I think I've taken a lot of time. You will be very patient at 5:30. What can I say about the press? Except one thing on Canada. Those who want a separate area for themselves, they don't stay in India. They are not Indian citizens. So wherever you are, demand land, whatever you want there. Don't mess with our life. And as far as we are concerned, I don't think, I may not have the authority to speak about everybody, but if I don't have the authority, let the ones who are against it put up their hands. And if they don't, then I say that I have the authority to say on their behalf that nobody in India wants what they want. Wherever they are, whether they are happy or unhappy, you ask that government, no? If that government is sympathetic towards you, उनको बोलो जगह दे दो, हम बना लेंगे, जाओ बनाओ. Why do you want to spoil our life? Why do you want to mess with us? And why does the press or anybody want to highlight it? What is there to highlight? If this is a large joint family, if one son says, I want to go to America, good, go. You want to go to Canada, please go. But what has that got to do with the rest of the family? So please don't malign us. We are not here, to say that, नहीं जी, हम शपथ खाते हैं, हम बड़े ये हैं, वो है. आपको प्रॉब्लम है, आप जाओ. यहाँ वालों को प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. And the press should not highlight it. If there are odd factors here and there, good luck to them. We are happy where we are. We are part of the system. We don't consider ourselves to be separate or anything like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Sastani Sahab. You काफी clear कर देता है the K factor part of it, which has been in the news most of the time. You have a question?
I want just 2 minutes.
एक second, just 1 second. Wait, before we take it time, I'd like to request all of our distinguished members to come and present at the movement. And there is a book, we call it, we have 2 copy tables. One on Guru Nanak 550, another on Guru Tegh Bahadur 550. These were specially brought in during the 550 and 400 anniversary of the Guru Tegh Bahadur by the Sikh Review. And the monthly magazine is coming up from Calcutta for the last 70 years and goes worldwide. So I'd like to give a complimentary copy of that also for the month of October. And we'd like to kindly come up, Chota sir, kindly come. Kindly help of the grandchildren of the victims and the weaker section of society. Every year, Sikh Forum, which is, you got the ATG benefit also available. So those who wish to give donation to the Sikh Forum and to this society, you're most welcome. And we will hereafter call all the children to give them the checks. Kindly come.
सॉरी मैंने कोई बोलने का बहुत शौक नहीं हैगा पर एक ਜਿਹੜੀ ਗੱਲ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਕਾਫੀ ਸਰਕੂਲੇਟ ਹੋ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਅੱਜ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਉਹ ਚਾਵਲਾ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨੇ ਉਸਨੂੰ ਰੀਇਨਫੋਰਸ ਕੀਤਾ ਉਹ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਉਹਦੇ ਤੇ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਨੀ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਸਸਤਾਨੀ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨੇ ਆਲਰੇਡੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਤੀ ਹੈ ਕਿਸੇ ਹਿਸਾਬ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਪਰ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਕਿਧਰੇ ਸਾਡੀ ਇੱਕ ਅਪੋਲੋਜੈਟਿਕ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਟੋਨ ਹੈਗੀ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਕਲੀਅਰ ਕਰਨਾ ਆਪਣੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਹੈਗਾ ਸਾਡੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਦਾ ਸਿਟੀਜ਼ਨ ਹੈਗਾ मैं प्रोफेसर हाँ मेरी सैलरी हैगी ਉਹਦਾ 33% ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਮੇਰੇ ਕੋਲ ਟੈਕਸ ਲੈਂਦੀ ਹੈ ਉਸ ਟੈਕਸ ਦੇ ਬਦਲੇ ਮੈਂ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਦਾ ਸਿਟੀਜ਼ਨ ਬਣਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਕਨਸਟੀਟਿਊਸ਼ਨ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਜਸਟਿਸ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ ਉਹ ਜਸਟਿਸ ਦਾ ਪ੍ਰੋਮਿਸ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਕੱਲੇ ਨੂੰ ਇੰਡੀਵਿਜੂਅਲ ਨੂੰ ਮਿਲਦਾ ਮੈਂ ਕੋਈ ਕ੍ਰਾਈਮ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਮੇਰੀ ਵਾਈਫ ਵੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਮੇਦਾਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗੀ ਮੇਰਾ ਬੇਟਾ ਵੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਮੇਦਾਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗਾ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਕਲੈਰੀਫਿਕੇਸ਼ਨ ਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗੀ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੋਈ ਕੌਣ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੀ ਛੱਡੋ ਜੀ ਇੱਥੇ ਪਿਛਲੇ ਬੈਂਚ ਤੇ ਬੈਠਾ ਕੋਈ ਸਰਦਾਰ ਕੁਝ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ ਉਹਦੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਮੇਵਾਰੀ ਮੇਰੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗੀ ਮੈਂ ਕਿਉਂ ਕੰਡੈਮ ਕਰਾਂ ਉਸ ਨੂੰ ਭਾਈ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਹੈਗੀ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਹੈਗੀ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਅਰੈਸਟ ਕਰੇ ਆਈ ਡੋਨਟ ਨੀਡ ਟੂ ਬੀ ਅ ਪੈਟਰੀਓਟਿਕ ਪਰਸਨ ਆਈ ਡੋਨਟ ਇਵਨ ਨੀਡ ਟੂ ਬੀ ਅ ਨੈਸ਼ਨਲਿਸਟ ਆਈ ਐਮ ਅ ਸਿਟੀਜ਼ਨ ਆਫ ਦਿਸ ਕੰਟਰੀ as a citizen of this country I might have many opinions but if I violate law then punish me individually don't punish Dr. Sardar Pratap Singh just because both of us wear turban we have 20 other identities in that case you punish everyone for everything right I think this is a very dangerous narrative and Chawla Sahab again said the same thing कि ਅਸੀਂ ਇਕੱਠੇ ਹੋਣਾ ਪੈਣਾ ਜੀ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਪਬਲਿਕਲੀ ਆ ਕੇ ਕੰਡੈਮ ਕਰਨਾ ਪੈਣਾ ਕਿਹਨੂੰ ਕੰਡੈਮ ਕਰੋਗੇ ਜੀ ਸਾਡੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈ ਲਾਈਕ ਐਨੀ ਅਦਰ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਸਸਤਾਨੀ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨੇ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਵੀ ਆਰ ਅ ਵੈਰੀ ਡਾਈਵਰਸ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ देयर आर जेंडर डिफरेंसेस देयर आर क्लास डिफरेंसेस देयर आर कम्युनिटी डिफरेंसेस कितने सारे सिखां दी अपनी कौमां है एक कौम नहीं हैगी ਤੇ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇੱਕ ਅਪੋਲੋਜੈਟਿਕ ਡਿਫੈਂਸਿਵ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਨੈਰੇਟਿਵ ਸਾਡੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਵੀ ਆ ਗਿਆ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਕਲੀਅਰ ਹੋਣ ਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਹੈਗੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਜਦੋਂ ਜਸਟਿਸ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਜਸਟਿਸ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਇਸ ਕਨਸਟੀਟਿਊਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਬੇਸ ਤੇ ਇਹ ਡੈਮੋਕ੍ਰੈਟਿਕ ਕੰਟਰੀ ਹੈ ਨੇਸ਼ਨ ਸਟੇਟ ਹੈ ਕਨਸਟੀਟਿਊਸ਼ਨਲ ਡੈਮੋਕ੍ਰੇਸੀ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਕਨਸਟੀਟਿਊਸ਼ਨਲ ਡੈਮੋਕ੍ਰੇਸੀ ਦਾ ਮਤਲਬ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਕਿ ਐਵਰੀ ਇੰਡੀਵਿਜੂਅਲ ਹੈਜ਼ ਸਰਟਨ ਰਾਈਟਸ ਸਾਡਾ ਕਨਸਟੀਟਿਊਸ਼ਨ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਇੰਡੀਵਿਜੂਅਲ ਰਾਈਟਸ ਦਿੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਰਾਈਟ ਨਹੀਂ ਦਿੰਦਾ ਸਿੱਖ ਜੇ ਇਕੱਠੇ ਹੋ ਕੇ ਆਪਣੀ ਕੌਮ ਚਲਾਉਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹਨ then it will be a very different kind of culture different kind of society ਹਿੰਦੂਆਂ ਦਾ ਆਪਣਾ ਚਲਾਓ ਸਿੱਖ ਦਾ ਆਪਣਾ ਚਲਾਉਣ ਮੁਸਲਮਾਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਆਪਣਾ ਚਲਾਉਣ ਫਿਰ ਕਿਧਰੇ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਦਾ ਕੋਈ ਸਕੋਪ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗਾ we are talking about India as a nation state as a country we pay tax we live here we may be loyal we may not be loyal in some ways some other person might think of us unloyal unless I do a crime according to the constitution nobody can account me for nobody can account somebody else औजा साहब क्यों जवाब देने मेरे वास्ते भाई हाँ कि उन्हें ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਬੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਕਲਾਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਠੀਕ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਪੜਾਇਆ ਦੇਖੋ ਜੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਸੰਭਾਲੋ ਕਿਹਨੂੰ ਸੰਭਾਲੋਗੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਭਾਈ ਕਿਉਂ ਸੰਭਾਲਣਾ ਭਾਈ ਬਾਕੀ ਕੌਮਾਂ ਸੰਭਾਲਦੀ ਹੈ ਕਿਸੇ ਦੇਸ਼ ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦਾ The point is that we should very clear when we are asking for justice we are asking for justice as a human right as an individual personal right that a कौम पे attack होता है naturally all of us are affected we will raise that question Sikh forum ਦਾ ਮਤਲਬ ਹੈਗਾ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪਣਾ ਪ੍ਰੋਟੈਕਟ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਦੇਾਂਗੇ ਇੱਕ ਦੂਜੇ ਨੂੰ ਬਟ ਜਸਟਿਸ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕੇਸ ਲੜੇ ਜਾਣਗੇ ਉਹ ਇੰਡੀਵਿਜੂਅਲ ਬੇਸ ਤੇ ਹੋਣਗੇ ਵਿਟਨੈਸ ਹੋਣਗੇ ਇੰਡੀਵਿਜੂਅਲ ਬੇਸ ਤੇ ਹੋਣਗੇ ਕ੍ਰਾਈਮ ਹੋਏਗਾ ਇੰਡੀਵਿਜੂਅਲ ਬੇਸ ਤੇ ਹੋਏਗਾ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੌਣ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਨਹੀਂ ਪਤਾ ਸਨ why should we be aware of it why should we have even why should even we think about it ਸਾਡਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਮੀਡੀਆ ਹੈਗਾ ਬੜਾ ਸਿਸਟਮੈਟਿਕ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਇੱਕ ਨੈਰੇਟਿਵ ਰੀਇਨਫੋਰਸ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਪ੍ਰੋਡਿਊਸ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ ਇਹ ਕੋਈ ਸਿੰਪਲ ਗੱਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਉਹ ਬਹੁਤ ਵੱਡਾ ਕ੍ਰਾਈਮ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਵੀ ਇਨਜਸਟਿਸ ਹੈਗਾ ਉਸ ਇਨਜਸਟਿਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਨੂੰ ਕੇਸ ਕਰਨੇ ਚਾਹੀਦੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਕੇਸ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਪ੍ਰੋਪੇਗੈਂਡਾ ਨੂੰ ਚਲਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਪ੍ਰੋਪੇਗੈਂਡਾ ਕਰਕੇ ਜੇ ਸਾਡੀ ਆਈਡੈਂਟੀਟੀ ਫਾਇਰ ਟੂ ਕੈਰੀ ਦੈਟ ਬਰਡਨ ਆਈ ਐਮ ਨਾਟ ਰਿਸਪੌਂਸਿਬਲ ਫॉर ਇਟ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੁਝ ਕਰੋ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਹੀ ਕਸੂਰ ਹੈਗਾ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਵਿਕਟਿਮ ਨੂੰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਸੂਰਵਾਰ ਬਣਾ ਦਿਓਗੇ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਬਾਅਦ ਕੋਈ ਲੋੜ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਪੈਂਦੀ ਕਿਸੇ ਚੀਜ਼ ਨੂੰ ਕਰਨ ਦੀ ਤੇ ਆਈ ਥਿੰਕ ਇਸ ਫੋਰਮ ਤੇ ਉਹ ਚੀਜ਼ ਕਲੈਰੀਫਾਈ ਕਰਨਾ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਸੀਗਾ ਇਸ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਮੈਂ 2 ਮਿੰਟ ਲਿਆ ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ ਵੈਰੀ ਮਚ ਸੌਰੀ ਫॉर
And in the meanwhile, I'd like to say that the grandchildren get hanging. Some of them have reached the stage of graduation. Some are doing the MBA, some are doing the engineering. What range of it? What range of it?
हरप्रीत कौर चरणजीत सिंह
There are some children who are studying in 8th class, they don't have the bank account, so now the parents will दूसरा जा रहे हैं.
गुरजीत सिंह, जसकीरत, रविंदर कौर, जसप्रीत कौर, रविंदर कौर,
कामना जी, तुझ भी आ जाओ प्लीज का और
जसप्रीत कौर, परमजीत कौर,
सामने जी किथे गए?
परमजीत कौर,
उन्होंने बुला लो.
करणजीत सिंह,
आ जाओ प्लीज का.
करणजीत सिंह,
कमन ब्लेस देम.
करणजीत सिंह,
नाले किथे ने?
करणजीत सिंह, करणजीत सिंह, सिफत कौर, प्रिया कौर,
चावले चले गए थे.
नरेंद्र कौर, नरेंद्र कौर, सिमरनजीत, दलीप सिंह,
नाग साहब कंफर्टेबल.
परमजीत कौर बदन सिंह, अशप्रीत कौर, हरनाम सिंह,
तो जो बाकी बच्चे रह गए ने इन्होंने ਅਸੀਂ
जसमीत कौर,
कॉमन प्लेस हैगी ਉੱਥੇ ਨਾਲ ਫਾਰਮਲੀ
अर्शप्रीत कौर, बख्शी सिंह, अशप्रीत,
स्वरणजीत ऑलरेडी
साहिब सिंह,
वेस्ट इन्वेस्ट डेली और साढ़े
साहिब सिंह,
काफी कम कर रहे हैं.
सुखविंदर कौर, सुरिंदर सिंह, ज्वाला सिंह,
फुलका साहब प्लीज कम अप.
जसविंदर,
ब्लेस द चिल्ड्रन. थोड़े बच्चे सारे बचाए हुए हैं.
जसविंदर सिंह,
इन्होंने
गुरजीत सिंह, गुरजीत सिंह, कमलजीत कौर, जल्दी बेटे.
नेक्स्ट
जसविंदर सिंह, जसविंदर सिंह, अमरीक सिंह, बख्शी सिंह, पूरन सिंह, मनप्रीत कौर, दलीप सिंह, हरजीत कौर, धर्म सिंह, रोहनप्रीत, कमलजीत, पुष्पिंदर सिंह, सिमरन कौर, मीना कौर, सुरजीत सिंह, अंजलि कौर, जगजीत सिंह, दीपा कौर, प्रिया, मुस्कान, हरलीन, जसविंदर, रह गया बच्चा जसविंदर, नहीं सर
हाँ जी